Let's go to the UK now, where Prime Minister Keir Starmer's ratings have dropped to their lowest level yet. According to a YouGov poll, only a third of people in the UK have a favourable view of him. Joining us now is geopolitics and finance expert Roger Gewolb, who is in London for us. Roger, what's he doing wrong?
Just about everything. Only 20% of people actually voted for him. And his rating has really dropped. He has the opportunity, after 14 years of really messed up, incompetent, unlistening Tory conservative rule, Keir Starmer and Labour have the opportunity to be real heroes. They could fix all of the many things that are wrong with this country very quickly, some of them in an afternoon, and yet they are proceeding in totally the opposite direction and alienating huge swathes of the British public.
Can you go into a bit more detail? How do you see this playing out for Keir Starmer?
Well, I think that starting out where it hurts the most, pocketbooks, he made a big thing of not raising taxes. And he did mention several particular taxes that he won't raise. But he and Rachel Reeves, his money person, his Chancellor of the Exchequer, the first ever woman Chancellor, do seem intent on raising taxes in areas that they didn't mention. So they will increase inheritance tax. They will increase capital gains tax and hit entrepreneurs. They will, there's some word being mooted, charge so many pence per mile to drive your car in Britain now, which is really going to be incredibly unpopular. And he said that he will not raise the national insurance. In other words, when you get your paycheck, there is a deduction by the government on you and a charge to your employer. So he's not going to touch the employee charge, but he is going to increase the charge to employers, which simply gets passed on. So I think the tax and the money aspect is the first area where he's lost a lot of credibility. The other is freedom of speech. I mean, he's actually emptying prisons of thousands and thousands of pretty serious criminals and filling up their cells with hundreds of people who have posted critical comments on social media. Now, most of them do seem to be very inappropriate things that incited riots and were, hate crimes in themselves. But he does seem to be, many say, clamping down on freedom of speech. And a lot of people are saying it's 1984 here.
Okay, let's look at the crisis in the Middle East. In Israel, tens of thousands of Israelis protested against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, demanding a ceasefire for a hostage deal. Look, the anger towards Benjamin Netanyahu has been increasing after the tragic news broke that 6 more captives were horrifically killed in Gaza.
That Bibi Netanyahu is not doing enough at all. He is killing kids and he's killing the hostages by leaving them there.
Roger, it's been almost 11 months now. No wonder there is so much anger.
It's still a very small proportion of Israelis, as we understand it, that are critical of Netanyahu for not making a peace deal, because after all, how do you make a peace deal? How do you have a ceasefire with a terrorist group that says it's not going to lay down its arms? I mean, it would mean the destruction of Israel the next day if they stopped fighting while Hamas continued. So one can understand absolutely how those people feel, and especially the group of hostage families, absolutely. But Netanyahu is holding firm. Some people are criticizing him, just saying he's trying to hold on to political power by satisfying the more extreme factions in his government. But at the same time, other analysts are saying, well, yeah, but I mean, how could you have a ceasefire with these people? Just killing those 6 poor hostages just before they were to be released doesn't send a message that one is progressing towards peace.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, anti-Semitism is still on full display. Thousands of anti-Israel protesters, some waving Hamas flags, stormed through New York City on Labor Day. Take a look. Roger, can I get your reaction to the protests?
I think they started out because, of course, there were also protests at Columbia University again, and other parts of New York. I think they started out, the reports say, as peaceful protests, but as so often happens with these, they then turn quite negative, quite nasty. I just think it's absolutely disgusting. On the day that an American citizen, one of the hostages, was being laid to rest, to be waving Hamas flags. That must be some sort of hate crime under New York law. I mean, it's just, Hamas is a terrorist organization. And what those people in the streets, however well-meaning they are about peace in the region and Palestinians and the rest, I mean, surely they know that Hamas and Islamic Jihad and all these other groups intend that everybody else is next. The Jews are just the canary in the mine. Anybody who's an infidel, including all those many, many millions of Muslims who don't practice their extreme form of Islam, are the next targets. So what are they out there waving flags for if somebody who wants to get rid of them as well? I find it very puzzling and very offensive to be seeing Hamas flags going down the streets in New York City.
Yeah, it's very hard to watch time and time again. Staying in the United States, the high-stakes debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris is only a week away. There are reports that Kamala Harris will spend at least 5 days in the lead-up to it preparing intensely. How do you think she'll go?
I think she's going to be much better than she has been. I mean, people were really disappointed, Gabriella, that she only spoke for 27 minutes instead of, I suppose, an hour or so. I think she'll do better because, she's been under a hard grind now and a lot of pressure, but I don't think she'll be any match for Donald Trump. There's still a lot of debate about whether the microphones will be muted or left on. And if they're left on, that gives Trump an opportunity to interrupt and score points and all the rest, and her too, but it's probably more his style. I mean, I think he'll probably win the debate hands down. There's no way. She's just not a strategic enough thinker, nor an accomplished enough strategist or speaker to prevail over someone like Trump. But look, I keep all over the place on networks all around the world. I keep getting asked this question, and I keep saying the same thing. Let me ask you a question. If you wanted somebody to be president of the United States and leader of the free world, and the person who currently held that role stood down and said, I'm not going to run, wouldn't you put your candidate in place the next morning so they could show their stuff and show what they can do? Why is Joe Biden, who has trouble telling what day it is sometimes, still running America and leading the free world? Why isn't Kamala the new president? I'll tell you for why. Because it's very likely that she would mess up and create quite an embarrassment about something before the 5th November, and then the Democrats' goose would be cooked. There's already enough stuff coming out about their links to China and all sorts of other stuff, which is going to not do them a lot of good. And if Kamala just put her foot wrong and said one wrong thing, which she's very likely to do, that would be it for them. But I just think it's amazing that he's still running the country and she's standing there.
Oh, he's apparently running the country. He's been at the beach for most of the week, but look, he is back. I want to talk to you about Ukraine before I let you go. According to US officials, the Biden administration is close to agreeing to giving Ukraine long-range cruise missiles, but Kyiv will need to wait several months due to technical issues. The US has provided over $55 billion in military aid since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Roger, do you think that the US should keep pouring money into it?
No, I don't. I don't think anybody should. And I know a lot of people disagree with me, but all the geopolitics experts that I know, and that's quite a few, are now saying, if this was happening a year ago, bravo, but it's too late. It's time to negotiate. The Ukraine is at best creating a bargaining chip by their invasion of Russia. They are at best, by all these efforts, creating just a bargaining chip. They're not going to win. It's time to end this and negotiate. This war is ridiculous to keep carrying on. Some people are calling it Zelensky's ego trip. I'm not sure about that. That might be a bit extreme. But I think he's a patriotic guy. But I think it needs to stop, because all of this money, when we need it for things at home, I mean, the National Health Service in the UK, your own immigration problems in Australia. I mean, money is needed everywhere domestically, and to pour it into this bottomless pit, I think is unwise at this point. We're past the point where it's going to make a difference.
Dr. Roger Gewolb, so great to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.